we're moving away from horror this week, and we're going into autobiography, biography,
Yeah.
with the great Temple Grandin. She's not late; she's still alive, and
Yeah, I was about to say, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
What did I miss? You scared me for a second.
So I am going to come at this one a little different, just because this is one of the times. Well, we'll just be spoilers, and we'll mostly talk about the movie because they worked with her very closely on set and took straight from her books that this is a very accurate depiction of her life and how she sees the world, and she fully proved it while working on set and everything, even close to Claire Danes. So we'll talk about the movie, and then there won't be much, and I'll just have quick inserts here where we talk about her life because this movie is her life. So they did a good job. They got it right.
I was about to say, watching it, you feel like, all right, this is like the way that they were describing things. I was like, an autistic person wrote this.
Yeah.
An autistic person could not write this.
Yeah. They did a great job. They so when you come in on the movie, you come in to I want to say it's her talking at first, but then pretty close, she gets into a plane. She's coming off a plane, and it's like Arizona 1960 something. And she stops like mid-step, and she's looking around. You can see the heat rising, like the waves of the heat. And she looks
coming
over
out on a tarmac. She's not coming out like in the two. This is like on a tarmac.
Little plane, tarmac, people waiting, and she sees the tower just on fire, and her the person who knows her, we don't know who this person is yet, is calling to her and saying, "You need to move, you're holding up the line." And she's like, "I see the heat." And I was just like, "Oh, that would be my boys."
Like, that is so funny.
You can't even move right now. Shit is on fire, damn it. Like, and then we see her in the car, and this was another scene that was like, oh my god, that's my household. Like, she's what you call scripting from a movie, and this is where she's just saying the lines from the movie over and over again, and she's giggling because it's funny, and her family members just looking at her like, well, glad you're so happy. I don't know what's happening. Like
that, like I took notes during this. Hold on, let me find them, because there were some moments where I was like, holy fucking shit. Like, I think this one, I said, the way she laughs at something and the lady's not laughing is me. Like, I get so tickled over the stupidest bullshit. And if you ask me why I think it's so funny, I cannot fucking tell you. It is just so funny to me.
Sometimes it's just the way they're saying it. Like, it sounds hilarious. So like I related to that. But then also it was finally a depiction, because there's so often, because I'm a mom of autism too, and where I see these movies and these shows and I'm like, I can kind of see my kid, you know. This was the first time it was like an autistic character that, not character, person, and I was like, fucking, my kid does that. That's my car every morning, every afternoon. It's conversations I'm pulling out of scripts, you know, like, right. And so it was like, this is autism. This is, here you go. Like,
I think she was making a joke about, it was some movie quote about opening a gate. And she was dying laughing at it, which makes sense later because she really does have to open a gate.
So they show up on the farm, she's opening the gate, and this is the first time I feel like she looks around and she's like, oh, this is good. And she's like, I'm not going to college. And I think at this point we found out this is her aunt. She called her aunt, and her aunt's like, oh, okay, like, let's just get in the house. And she sees the cows, and she sees a bunch of cowboys, and they walk over to her, and it's the uncle being like, oh, hi, welcome back. And she didn't want to be touched. And then she sees the cowboy. She's like, oh my God, are you a cowboy? Like, it's the most excited she's been. And her aunt's like, that's rude. You gotta say hi first. And she goes, oh, yeah, right. Hi, Temple Grant. Like, and they were just like, okay, like, cool, keep it moving. Like, And then they go in, they're having dinner. No, first she goes into the house and she shows her where her room's going to be. And in this scene, I was just like, once again, great depiction. It's a great visual that we get to see finally of like, you hear the fan going a little louder as she's noticing that. You hear the crinkles that she's hearing, and you can
the cows outside.
How just like overwhelming that would be, you know? And her aunt's also talking to her like around, so you hear that kind of muffled out too. And then she's able to like zoom back in, and she's asking like, how do I know this is my room? And the aunt's like, because I said so. And then she also writes it on paper, and you can hear the screeching of the marker, and which makes her flinch. And then she puts the sign up and she's like, see, it's your room, Temple's room. And then they go to bed. And I was just like, this is an amazing aunt. Like,
I know,
set in the 60s. Like, this is amazing. And I think every autistic person needs a person like this in their life. Like,
yeah, she was so gentle and understanding, even if she didn't understand what was actually happening. Like, she's not going to know that like all of these noises at one time feel like I know that feeling. It makes me feel like I want to rip my bones out of my body. Like, it is such a like visceral feeling of having so much happening at one time and being forced to like focus. And her aunt was just like, okay, well, you don't feel like this is your room, so we just put a mark up there. It's yours now. Like, it's such a simple solution, but it could have easily been her getting like frustrated and being like, what do you mean? It's your room. You're staying here. This is the room you're staying in. It's yours. What are you talking about? Like, you're not making any sense. You're being ridiculous right now. But instead, she was just like, put a sign on the door, like, fuck it, whatever. And it was,
or even like while they're talking, even like outside, the aunt did a great job of, it's like, I can't correct you, you were being rude, but she never comes down on her like, oh, you fucking idiot, like it. She's stern when she needs to be, but otherwise we're going with the flow. Is okay, you don't want to be touched, we'll scoot wide towards you. And like,
yeah, like there's no freak out.
Yeah. And she keeps it moving, because you could tell the uncle is nervous and unsure about what to say, how to say it and stuff. And the aunt just keeps going with the flow, just like never missing a beat of this, like, well, anyways, like after an awkward moment or something like, because they go to dinner and she blurts out like, I only eat Jello and yogurt. And she's like, I know, I already got it. Here you go. And they just start eating. And
yeah, and that's it. Like, it's just the way that they handled like actually supporting someone who's autistic is the best way to fucking handle it.
Absolutely.
Like, especially someone who is higher needs, who needs more support, of just being like, all right, just pretend it's normal. Act like this is totally a normal thing all humans do, and then move on.
Yeah.
Like, don't make it like this big, all of your social constructs that you think of how things should act, how people should act and everything, it's just a construct anyway.
Yeah.
It's not, we made it up. We made the rules up so as a society.
I tell you what, personal story. When, like with my first child, you're way more like aware of everything you're doing. Like, you don't want to mess up.
Yeah.
So I was a lot harder on Maxwell, and even like Orion when we first got his diagnosis and everything, where I was so like, I don't want to mess up. I gotta be on top of you. I gotta be on top of you. I gotta be on top of you. That it took a while. Some of my hardest battles were trying to get them to, be stern or fit in the box, like, because they needed to do things that were, I finally actually started hearing from autistic people, and I also had to be like, why am I fighting this? Who cares if you want to do this? Why? I don't give a shit. Don't wear the shoes. Who cares? I don't care.
Why does it matter? Like, there are certain rules in place that we have to follow.
Just so much easier. When I finally was able to just go, yes, we're gonna have to fight to brush your teeth. We're gonna have to fight to brush your hair, because you got to do those things. You got to stay healthy. But fuck it, dude. You don't like that? You don't want to walk straight? You want to spin in circles? We're gonna fucking spin in circles. Everyone else can fucking suck a dick. Like, this is what we're gonna do. You know,
Yeah, like who the fuck cares? It's
yeah,
like there's even with Firefly, like there's certain things that are a definite we absolutely have to do this. And I explained to her why we have to do this. Things like
absolutely.
brushing your teeth and like wearing appropriate clothing, jackets. She absolutely despises jackets, but if I send her to school without a jacket in like 30-degree weather, they're going to call CPS.
Yeah,
She has to wear a jacket. But everything else is like I really could not give a shit less. Like she'll come to me all the time and she'll be like, I don't like the way this shirt fits, or I don't like how this feels, or even with food, like I don't like eating this. I didn't like this at all. I hated this. This was gross. Why did you make this? And like
yeah.
it never hurts my feelings because I'm like we're just all different and she's not even autistic. She's just a fucking child. So like I'm the one that's autistic, not her. So I feel like I have more understanding because I'm like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, I don't like
You
hummus
have to
because
like it.
it feels like I'm eating
Yeah,
dirt.
I stopped.
Like
It was like, oh, you need to finish meals became, you know what,
no.
dude? And I even found a great doctor who even said it best because she was like, well, what foods is he willing to eat right now? Like, is he? And I was like, honestly, right now it's pretty much pizza bites, any type of pizza, really. And she was like, well, you know what? There's a carb, there's vegetables into the tomato sauce, and there's protein. So sounds like a great meal to me. And I was
Yeah,
like, thank you for not making me
exactly.
feel like a shit mom for I just want him to eat. So,
Right.
like all that other stuff is just
Yeah, no,
doesn't work.
it doesn't.
Yeah,
It just makes it worse. Like
yeah,
it doesn't. And it's like there's a difference between raising your kid to be a super picky eater and them still ordering chicken tenders from a restaurant when they're like 25 and there's nothing wrong with them. They just are fucking like like picky eaters,
yeah,
and raising a kid who's aware of their palate and what they actually want to eat. And if you're doing it the right way, they're not going to have any problems with food. They're way less likely to develop an eating disorder. They're way less likely to have like a weird relationship with food. Like, if you just let them make their decisions for themselves. Like, she
yeah.
wants to eat yogurt and jello, and that's all she wants to fucking eat.
Fucking
All
yogurt and
right.
jello, bro.
Throw some
Go for
fucking
it.
protein powder in the yogurt so she's getting
Yeah.
protein.
I mean,
Like,
I will say we probably gotta get a little tighter than just yogurt and jello, but you know what? She's
yeah.
made it this far on just fucking yogurt and jello, so
Well, this wasn't too far past the time when they were putting like ham in jello. So like honestly,
what? Who
you
put
didn't know
ham
that?
in jello?
Oh my god,
I've
bitch.
never had ham and jello.
No, we don't eat it now. I'm gonna have to find some old recipe books for you. They legit, I don't know what it was. Something happened socially in America, culturally, that made like I don't know if it was one of the wars and we were struggling with, food insecurity or what, but at a certain point in time, there was this huge boom in Jello being like a huge staple in food, like homemade Jello put into like bunt can molds and stuff, big
Yeah.
ass things of Jello, but they would put shit in them. They would put
I've
celery
had
and lettuce
jello with shit
and
in it. I've
and
had it,
meat.
but I've
They would
never
put
had
meat in
meat.
it. They
I've
would put
never
meat in
had
it.
meat.
I
I've
swear to
had like
God.
the marshmallows and shit,
That
not meat.
no, this was not fruit. This was nothing sweet. This was savory Jello molds
Ugh.
that were like the
Ugh.
hit. Like there are cookbooks full of nothing but full meal Jello
And a
mold
jello.
in Jello. So, but and I feel like it was
I
kind
wonder
of
if my
around
kids
this
would eat
time.
that. I
I
wonder
fuck
if
it.
that's the way to get my kids to eat more protein.
Don't do that to. I'll call CPS myself. If I tell B that, he will lose his. He will drive down there. And he'd be like, we gotta rescue.
It's
What's his favorite right
we
now?
gotta
Orion.
rescue them.
We have to rescue Orion. He
Rescue
picks
all
his
three. We're all
favorite.
eating jello from now on. That's all I'm cooking.
I
It's
think he would
jello.
legitimately call your husband's like parents and be like, "Hey, there's something wrong. I think we need like mental health."
They'd be like, we told him not to marry a white woman. This is what happened. They put jello in everything.
Your home is now just Jello bowls and casserole.
Welcome home, honey. Just jiggling it to at him.
I had tears in my eyes.
So, anyways,
we gotta get back on track.
We're like 10 minutes into the movie. So what does happen next?
Next she's just like, she's hanging out at the farm, and she's like, you see her at the gate that she had to get out of the truck to open the gate.
Yeah.
So you see her at the gate, and she's just like, she's got a little notebook, and she's just doing like a crazy amount of calculations, and you don't know what it's for, but she's just calculating all kinds of shit. And I think next, I think they have like a housekeeper or something, like it's a lady, and she's in the house and she's cleaning up. She's got like bed sheets, like fresh bed linen, and she walks into Temple's room, opens it, and when she opens it, the thing falls down, the paper that says Temple Grandin's room on it falls down. She puts the bed sheets wherever, and then the aunt calls for her, so she just leaves, right? Temple comes back inside, and she's walking down the hallway to her room, and she sees that the piece of paper is like on the ground, and she has a full-blown panic attack, full-blown autistic meltdown.
Yeah.
Because she's like, it's not my room. You took the paper down. Who took the paper down? I don't know. I don't understand what's happening. So she has a total meltdown, and she like runs out of the house. She's like screaming, she's crying. Her aunt is like following her, like, oh fuck. Like,
we missed something.
We missed.
Hold on.
What did we miss?
At some point, she's on. Okay, so she's at the gate. Then her aunt calls her to do some work, and she's like, okay. And she sees them with the cows, and they're putting them in the thing. And she's like, what are you doing? And then they're like, well, we're going to close this so that the bull can get up there. And then she's like, well, why do you need that? And he's like, it just holds them. And she's like, well, why is he calm now? Because he knows the cow got real calm. And he's like, I don't know, we're just squeezing them. They like it. And then that's when
she goes inside.
She goes into her room and she has a meltdown. And then because she had already saw that and learned that, she runs to the cow hugging machine. And she tells her aunt to close her, and her aunt's like, I'm not doing this. And she's like, just fucking do it. And so her aunt closes her in, and she's just like, oh, yes, okay. And is able to calm
the machine
down.
They put not just cows, they put a lot of different animals in those types of machines to keep them still. Like when they do like hoof cleaning and stuff on cows, that's what they're in. And it's like, it's kind of shaped like this, kind of like a V. They put their head through one part that kind of closes a little bit, and then the V part is the part that like squeezes them so that they can't hurt themselves. Like, but yeah, they calm completely down. So when she's freaking out, her first thought is, "Oh, I'm a cow, bitch! I'm a cow."
And it worked.
Yeah.
And so, at this point, I think
her mom, shows up now.
At some point a phone call happens first, though. I think the aunt gets a phone call from her, and she's like, well, how is she? And she's like, she's doing good, but she's not going to college. She's like, oh fuck yeah, she's going to college. She's going to college.
Yeah.
And in that conversation, you get a flashback back to when Temple was a little girl, a child, and they're sitting in a doctor's office, her and her mother. And this scene was fucking painful and made it's rough. So because the mother's just trying to ask, she's like, she's a normal kid, she's just not talking. And he's like, well, she has I think he called it autism, schizophrenia.
They call it autism, but they used to also call it some type of acute schizophrenia or like innate schizophrenia. But yeah, they did classify autism in the same realm as schizophrenia back then.
So then the mother's like, well, okay, but like, what classes do we need now? What help am I going to get? Like, how do I get my daughter talking? He's like, no, you need to institutionalize her, which I'm just like, all the fucking lives lost back then. So, and her mom's like, I'm sorry, what? And he's like, well, you're gonna need to institutionalize. She's like, no, you don't understand. She was fine. We just need to teach. She's my daughter. And he's like, ma'am, I don't think you understand. Maybe I need to speak to your husband. So like another level of irate. Like, and she's like, how did this happen to my child? I went to fucking Harvard, so try me.
Right.
And he's like, well, some studies are showing, and this is what they believed back then, that the mother didn't give enough affection when the child was young, and that caused this. And she's like, that's not fucking true. I gave her affection all the time. She doesn't want me to touch her. Like, and he's like, well, institutionalize her. She's not gonna get better. So it's just irate. The scene's terrible, and it's such a heartbreaking scene because it is very much what happened to the majority of special needs people all around the spectrum, but for autistics. And that's also what makes me, when people try to bring up like oh, it's not genetic, it's something causing it, that's why cases are rising like crazy. We didn't have autism when I was a child. Yeah, because you fuckers were putting them in institutions.
Don't get me started.
They either fucking figured it out, became the weird person, but figured it out, or they went straight to fucking institutions.
Don't get me started.
Children. Like
yeah, so, well, the whole thing with her being diagnosed as autism is a little bit of an anomaly as well, because it wasn't until not that long ago, I'm talking like 40 to 50 years,
yeah,
that they even believed and were willing to actually diagnose girls with autism. They believed forever that this was a male only anomaly, and they believed that the girls who were experiencing relatively the same um, symptoms were just mentally disabled. Like they would not give them the autism diagnosis because they believed, and at this time it wasn't just like it wasn't an autism diagnosis like we believe it today. It was almost exclusively what is that? What was the word that they used to use? It's another word that starts with an A, named after that guy. Asperger's. Mm-hmm. It was almost exclusively called Asperger's. Once they got past the schizoaffective crap, it was almost exclusively Asperger's. And like they did not want to diagnose any women with it, any girls at all, unless you were like you had extremely high needs that you needed to be met. So her getting diagnosed at all tells me, one, she was very high needs as a child, and two, she was a total medical anomaly that this doctor would not have been educated enough to even give an opinion on.
Oh yeah, not that anyone was all that educated on autism anyways back then. So
we've had to do our own shit. We've had to put together our own resources even now in 2023.
I mean, it's getting better, but you think we'd be a lot farther than we are, and we're not. So you jump back to the farm, and the mom is now at the farm ready to pick her up, and Temple's she's just filthy, laying in the cow pen, and she's
don't do that, by the way. Don't do that.
I don't know. I was like, that feels dangerous. If a cow one step and you're fucking done.
No, like, you need to be back. Don't lay in the middle of a herd like that.
Yeah.
Not at all.
That's super dangerous.
Especially if there's a bull anywhere near the pen that the female cows are in. Dog, that is so fucking dangerous. Don't lay like that. Lay off to the side and they will come to you, because cows are just big puppies, but don't fucking lay in the middle of a herd.
I wouldn't want to lay in the middle of a herd.
No.
It doesn't feel smart.
It is not. She was freaking me out the whole movie doing that shit.
Yeah, she was in there, and she comes out, and her mom's like, wow, you're disgusting. Let's go to college. And she's like, no, I'm not fucking going to college. I'm going to work with cows. And they
her mom opened the gate too. So the thing that she was doing was she was creating a very specific intelligent pulley system, so that like when the mom pulled up, there was like a metal rod hanging next to the car, and then there was a sign that said pull the rod to open the gate. You have 43 seconds to enter. She was so specific. 43 seconds. So she like fixed the whole thing. She rigged it was like this crazy
so
contraption.
She pretty much invented an automatic gate.
Yeah.
It wasn't a thing back then. Well, maybe it was. Sometimes I feel like the 60s might as well have been caveman times, and I definitely am like, oh yeah, you guys had TVs, so maybe you had automatic gates. Like,
if they did, they were extremely crude and they were not accessible for everyone. That would be like a rich
I'm sure it was only a very rich person thing. If we even had one. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
like
something
I
to
know
Google.
it
Now I do want to Google it.
To put in perspective, I know in the 70s they had the technology to press the if you were robbing a bank, they had the alarm technology to press the button and call the police. But that was still very crude technology at the time. So if you're looking at that kind of realm, that was the 70s. This is the 60s. Yes, they were building the atomic bomb and doing all of that research, but they were also like not really putting technological advances in the hands of the everyday people.
So automatic gates were invented in 1881. All the old people right now are like, what the hell? Of course we had automatic gates.
But hold on, we have to think about what the word automatic means to us versus to them.
Well, it said he invented the first electric gate opener.
Yeah, but how did it work? Did it work like temples? You had to pull the thing and then you had to open it?
Like, well, that when hers wasn't electric.
It wasn't, but I'm saying in the same realm. Do you get what I'm saying? You have to
but they wouldn't call it electric if it wasn't electric.
Right, but what part of it was electricity? Is what I'm saying. Like, what mechanism is it that used the electricity? I'm sure it wasn't you press a button and it just opens automatically for you. It had to be some portion of it that was electric. We are off the rails in this episode.
At this point, they said it's a catch connected with an electromagnet that keeps the gate closed.
It's an electromagnet. That's not, to me, that's not an automatic gate. You see what I'm saying?
No, I don't even know what electromagnet.
An electromagnet is just, it's just like super, like the magnets that you use to like, if you have, I'm trying to explain this. You know how some cabinets, they have the little piece in there where you close it and it just connects automatically? That's a magnet. An electromagnet is just a better kind of magnet. So it held the gate shut. It didn't open it with electricity. It held the gate shut with an electromagnet.
Okay, so they fully describe it here. The company's gateway system consisted of 2 metal frames covered with zinc and lined with rubber rollers and cloth tape at each end. The gate was mounted on a long iron chain linked to an electromagnet and could be opened or closed by pressing 2 handles mounted on an upright post near the tracks. Okay.
Yeah, so what they're doing is...
So it is like hers. You just pull the thing.
Yeah, you pull the thing, but what they're doing is when they're pushing it, they're disconnecting the magnet from the other magnet so that it swings open automatically. You know how like if you push a gate, like a fence gate, and it'll swing back and forth? Yeah. That's what they're doing, except for they have 2 magnets connecting it, fueled by electricity, that hold the gate closed so it only swings open when you disconnect those 2 magnets.
Gotcha.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to go off on like a semantics rant, but like when I hear the word automatic and I hear like 1800s, I'm like, wait.
Yeah. But this still
We're not talking about the same thing.
I guess it was until the 70s. 1970s is where you get the more modern, what you think of an electric gate. At least that's what this says. We probably need a lot more.
Right? And I cannot believe that we have wasted 40 minutes and we're not even 20 minutes of this movie.
I pushed the wrong button. Something might happen now.
The
warning came up, and instead of being like, oh, X, I said upgrade right now.
Oh, it's going to try to get you to give money.
That's what I'm like. Okay, well, something should pop up next. Nothing's popping up. Okay. So she does end up like her mom's like, no, you're going to, like, we're packing, we're going to college, you don't even get a say in this. And she's giving all the whatabouts and stuff, and her mom's like, you can do this. You got this. Like, but you gotta go.
Right. You have to fucking go.
Yeah. You want to work cows? You can do that at college, but you gotta go to college. And so when she was like, well, wait, I can do cows at college? Okay, I'll go to college. And we see her mom take her to college, and they're walking by all the people, all the normal sounds and sights you're hearing at college, roommates giggling and stuff.
Yeah, but they put it in her perspective where it
and so it's loud
makes
and
your bones vibrate. Yeah.
And she ends up in a room and she's like, I'm all by myself. And her mom's like, perfect. And you won't be bothered. And she's like, well, that's not, I don't want to be bothered by myself. And then it jumps to she's in French class, and he's like, you're not paying, he's saying things in French, and he said something to her in French, which I assume is somewhere along the lines of, why aren't you paying attention, or something like that. And what she responds, French is dumb. Like, she responds to him in English, but clearly understood what he just said to her.
Right.
And then he's like, he says in French something like along the lines of like, read the page. And this, I found this so, like, I feel like neurotypicals don't tend to understand what people mean when they say you got to be very specific in how you speak to autistic people, because they don't understand nuances. And I think they confuse that to think like some forms of like sarcasm and stuff. Like, autistic people can learn that stuff, but this was a very clear, if he says, okay, read the page, and she just silently reads the page, because that's what he told her to do, read the page.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, like you didn't specify.
And then she's like, okay, I read the page. And he's like, and clearly the class is even getting annoyed, because they're like, come on, you knew what he meant. But she did not know what he meant, like, and this would be an instant where autistic people probably have so many stories of getting in trouble because you're not being clear with you. I did exactly what you told me to do. I followed the rules. And now you're mad at me and I don't understand what's happening. And so then he's like, oh, funny girl, haha. So he's like, okay, tell me what it said. And he takes the book from her. But she has a visual memory. So she just starts reciting what she just read. And he's like, you read that? And he almost accuses her of like studying beforehand, like, you've memorized this book beforehand. And she's like, no, I read the page like you told me to. Why are we still having this conversation? Like, and the kids start laughing and stuff, and you can tell she's getting frustrated because she doesn't know why they're laughing. She doesn't understand, and she didn't even want to be in the stupid class anyways.
Right. And there's some instances of people actually laughing at her. And then there's other instances like this where they're not specifically laughing at her, they're laughing at the whole situation. But if you have not like studied social cues and learned your way around that, someone just laughing and you not really understanding what's funny just feels like laughing at you. It feels like they're making fun of her. In reality, they're not. They're laughing because she just fucking schooled this idiot.
Yeah, absolutely. But all of it's uncomfortable for her. So she ends up, then it shows her in the lunchroom where, overstimulation zone. People crowding around her, pushing on her. This disgusting food is being placed all around her. All she wants is her fucking Jello, and she wants to get the fuck out of there. And people are laughing at her because like she's in a panic.
Well, now she's causing a scene. So now it's like, she's
now people are laughing at her. And so she takes her Jello and she runs away up to her room, and
she gets stopped first because the doors to the lunchroom are automatic.
Yeah, that's why everyone really starts laughing at her, because she freaks out of automatic doors.
Because she sees a guillotine in her head.
They have automatic doors, and we just spend the whole time asking if they have automatic gates?
That's a different mechanism.
How is that a different mechanism?
Oh my God. And you also have to think in terms of a farmer and what a farmer is going to pay for versus what like this hoity-toity college that I'm sure they're paying tuition is going to pay for.
I didn't say your average man would have these things. I was just saying that it existed in some form that people would be like, yeah, we have automatic fucking gates. What are you talking about?
Right.
Like, not everyone had TV. But you're really expensive.
But then you have to think of it in terms of, is someone going to take the technology that they made specifically for the automatic doors, and are they going to take the time to then apply that to something that's going to be used mainly by farmers who are not really going to be open to you. Like even today, a lot of farmers don't have automatic gates. You still have to get out of your car. So like why would they take the technology that's doing the automatic opening and apply that to something that one, people aren't going to buy, and two, nobody's really asked for yet? That's what I'm saying. The way technology jumps is classed. It's pushed into different classes in the class system in the United States.
You know what next week's episode is going to be about? We're going to find a movie about fucking gates. We're going to watch the history of gates, damn it.
I hope I'm explaining myself well, because it makes sense in my head. Are. You know what I mean? Because like these things are so interesting.
I think I'm just more thinking on a very, very, very basic level of
you're thinking in a binary.
Exist. Yeah. That's the only question I'm asking. Yeah. And you're like, well.
And my autistic brain is like, well, actually, there is no binary with technology. It actually jumps and like it does like roller coasters. And so now we're just like automatic gates.
Yes or no, damn it. Call the parent. I want to know.
There is no yes or no.
The camera fell.
I'm going to get in trouble for yelling again. He got mad at me last week and said I was yelling. I didn't realize I was yelling. Autism. This whole episode is just full on autism on display.
No volume control over here at all. It's just screaming all the time. Okay, so she gets stuck at the automatic door because she's afraid of the.
She literally sees a guillotine in her head, like a picture of a guillotine.
So she drops she's clearly scared and like drops her yogurt and causes a scene, and now everyone is laughing at her because she can't walk through a door.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kind of go through this montage of her annoying more classes where like she can't speak French, she is bad in algebra. But then I think I'm conflating two different schools. Because they have high school scenes and college scenes.
No, this is the same. The college scene, it really shows her like having difficulty in everything. And most of it is because of the social things that are put on her. And like she gets a roommate. And her roommate is an autistic girl that's just like normal. And Temple freaks out because the roommate is just, she's like loud or whatever. And when Temple has the total meltdown over the doors, I think this is when she goes and she builds her own cattle thing out of like cardboard.
Yeah. And she puts it in a room. And so she puts that in the room first. And then the roommate walks in. It's her new roommate. She hadn't had one before, but she walks in on her in the machine, and Temple's like relaxing. You know, she just like deep breathing and chilling. But this girl reads it as some like perverted thing happening.
Yeah.
And she's like immediately runs out. And then we see Temple in like a therapy session. And once again, you get this very clear sense of where they are completely miscommunicating, because she's answering exactly what he's asking and he's taking it all the wrong way because he doesn't realize she doesn't understand the context of why people are disturbed by what she's doing. And where he's even like, personal pleasure, and she's like,
I guess
whatever kind of pleasure is there, you know? But like, because she can't understand the context of, he's putting a sexual context on it, and she's like, I don't understand what you're even talking about right now. Like, so we're gonna go on break.
Yep.
We'll be right back with the second half. All right, and we're back. So after this very awkward interview of total misunderstanding, the machine is taken from her, and she's pretty much deemed a pervert. And
they don't just take it; they like destroy it. They like rip it apart.
Well, first they throw in the trash can in front of her, and she's freaking out. And then she decides to sneak out in the night. And what I love about this scene is she's scripting again during the scene.
What? Okay. Hello, surprise guest.
Yo, why are you not watching the Lakers game? The Lakers are on.
Seriously?
It's the playoffs,
man.
It's the playoffs.
Nobody cares about basketball.
Ball is life. Everyone, it's the playoffs.
Nobody cares.
The Lakers, LeBron James is on. LeBron James versus Steph Curry.
That man's so old, nobody cares.
Everyone cares. That's why you need to watch him, because
No.
he's not going to be in the league forever.
He should have retired already. What is he, like 50?
38.
Oh, okay. All right. Good grief.
So
he's still yelling that the game is on. Anyway.
Oh yeah, so she's scripting again in this whole scene. She's playing out a movie she likes as she counts down to being a spy. And you can tell she's pretending to be a spy, but she's scripting while she's doing it. And I just found that like adorable. So then she goes down and she tries to get her machine back, but it a security guard catches her and she runs and hides. And then he destroys it. He sees what she had tried to pull out and he just goes ahead and destroys it. And I want to say she ends up running to her aunt's house. She leaves school. Her aunt comes to her. Something happens.
Is it her aunt or her mom? I don't remember.
I feel like it's both.
No. Wasn't it? It's her old teacher, her high school teacher.
No.
Isn't it her high school teacher?
Or is this where we jump back to high school after this trauma?
Maybe.
Yeah. I think it's what. So it stops at that trauma and she jumps back to high school and the mom is bringing her, and it's a boarding school. So it's like a special private school. And
she's older. She's like a young teenager. She's not a child.
Yeah. This is high school. And she's outside swinging and spinning in circles. And or no, she does meet them at first. Oh yeah, she comes in and she's like, this would be your new science teacher. And she's like, you're a scientist? Like, she's so excited. Like, she wanted nothing to do with the school at first. And then she was like, oh, you're fucking science? Fuck yeah. And so then it goes to the mom's kind of interviewing. And she's like, Temple's a special child. And maybe we shouldn't have her here. And
she starts freaking out.
Outside the window. Yeah, she sees outside the window the kids are laughing at her because she's swinging in a circle. And she's like, maybe we don't belong here. And he's like, I think you do belong here. And I want to help her. And he has this moment where he said something that made it seem like he was blaming the mom, and the mom kind of freaks out like, I've done everything I can. I've touched her. I've loved her. I've worked with her. Like, and he's like, whoa, you're coming off pretty defensive there.
He says something about like her needing additional assistance that she's not like getting, like that there's something that's missing in what is going on with her that she's not getting, that's going to allow her to then blossom. And the mom takes great offense to that because she's had everyone telling her
obviously. And so that's a great, I think, a great moment that a lot of autistic moms can kind of relate to, of you already carry so much guilt that even the tiniest bit of just someone trying to reach out and help comes off very offensively. And because you're trying to do everything you can for this child. And especially back then, my God, I couldn't have even imagined the hill this woman was fighting up to just not only keep her daughter in her house with her, but to find resources for her and places that worked for her. So he's like, I can help her and I want to help her and she will do great here. And she does like horses at this point. So she goes into the stable and she finds this really aggressive horse and she ends up being able to calm him.
Right.
But a teacher comes in. Well, at first the horse like Nate is crazy. And she pictured something, like it clicked something in her head, which then caused her to be able to calm him. And then the teacher rushes in and she's like, oh, get not that horse. You can ride other horses, but we don't touch that horse. And I feel like she got an idea from this, but it kind of moves on to classes. And once again, she's supposed to be learning language, but she can't. And then
she doesn't like it.
Yeah, math again isn't doing great, but she's doing great in science. And he teaches her, he brings up this illusion of two people standing in the same room, but one looks very tiny and one looks very big. And he's like, so that's your, and she's fascinated. And she's like, well, that's your assignment. And I'll give you extra credit if you can build it. But the assignment's just to tell me, how are they doing this? And so then it's the montage of her she's like measuring floors and like kids are kicking her tape measure and stuff. And she's like, and she's trying to, and she's freaking out and she's tearing up things because she can't fucking figure it out. And she's like, give me a clue. And he's like, well, it's everything in the room. And she's like, fucking done, figured it out.
Yeah, that's all she needed. One sentence and she was instant click. I was like, God damn, girl.
So then and you also see a scene where other teachers are in the meeting room and they're like, I don't think she's gonna do good at all.
Yeah,
like
she's failing algebra.
She's failing everything. And he's like, she's not. He's like, do you guys realize how she sees the world? And he has her notebook and a joke, because she had been learning French with something like eel, and she was getting frustrated. She's like, why are there so many fish in France? And everyone just starts laughing because they're like,
what the fuck?
He's like, what does that even mean? And he's like, look, she drew eels, fish in France. That's all. Whenever she's hearing these eels in your French language, that's all she's picturing in her head is eels.
Right, she thinks in pictures.
Yeah, she doesn't understand what you're saying because it doesn't mean anything to her. Like she has no way to envision that, you know? And he's like, she could do great things though. Look at the science. Look how she figured this out. And if we just have some patience, we can work with her. And it kind of makes everyone be like, wow, that is kind of amazing. All the pictures she's drawn and stuff like that. So then I want to say we jump back to college now.
Mm-hmm.
And
she calls him. Doesn't she call him?
Maybe it is that she calls him. He gives her the idea of like an experiment.
Right.
I don't think he didn't say those exact words, but she picked that out of the conversation. She was like, fucking done. So she goes to the teachers, the like psychiatrist and maybe headmaster, I'm not really sure. And she's like, let me prove it to you. I'm not being a pervert. This is calming and everyone benefits from hugs. And they're like, come on. And her mom and aunt are there like, no, seriously, you need to fucking do this for her now. And so they kind of agree to it. And she ends up like getting all this research and she starts bringing girls to her room to start doing studies and asking them like, how do you feel? Do you feel more anxious, less anxious, claustrophobic? Like she really breaks it down. And at first they won't accept it. They're kind of like, this work is useless. No. Yeah. And then finally she's like, she keeps one thing Temple's always done is fucking fight for herself, because in every scene, don't dismiss this woman because she's not going to stop talking to you.
Stubborn.
And she's like, no, this is my research. It was cloudy at first. Read it. You'll see. Some people said this, some people said that, and it causes them. And she's like, oh, and I should get a fucking A for doing all this work. And conversation over, she just stares at him and he's like, okay. And then he's like, oh, very nice. Yes. And he's like, yeah, I think you will get a good grade. And I think you can have your machine back. And she's very excited. And she builds an even more sophisticated machine now. And she has a new roommate who, they said you can have it if your roommate approves. So she meets her new roommate who is blind. And you see her like moving her stick around and she's touching the machine. And Temple's like, well, this is my machine. Do I need to move it for you? And she's like, no, just make sure you never move it. So I always know where it's at. And this makes Temple very happy because now she gets to keep her machine and she's made a really good friend.
Right.
And she helps her. She was like, do you want to see a movie tonight? And then she goes, oh, you can't see. And the girl's like, I can watch movies. And it clicks to them. They're at movie night, which I felt this was a dick move for everyone in the room who was shushing them. Because Temple's literally narrating the movie to the blind girl, like where he's standing, what he's doing, what he's saying, like, so she can enjoy the movie too, and everyone's shushing her. And I get it, I kind of get it, but I'm like, come on, blind girl deserves to enjoy movies too.
Yeah, and Temple was so excited to do it. Temple was like excitedly explaining, oh, he's moving over here now, like he's
like this is like her favorite movie, and she's probably seen it hundreds of times. And I'm pretty sure it's what she was scripting when she was sneaking down to get her machine back. Because it was,
I think it was
like a spy top type thing.
Yeah.
So then we cut to her graduating, and she must have been valedictorian or something because she's up there
giving the speech.
And her aunt and mom are in the audience, and they're all crying, and she starts singing and stuff, and it was a pretty good speech. And I want to say they even go back in time during the speech where they show her and her professor talking, and he's talking about how life, because she's, once again, she don't want to do it. She doesn't want to leave. She's talking, it's back to, I don't want to go to college. And this is him telling her, you do need to go to college, and life is a bunch of open doors, and you have to open them and
Right.
walk through them. And
right.
You see how she really internalizes that, because even after graduation, I mean, obviously this scene was put in for dramatic effect, but she like sees something, she climbs up a ladder to a abandoned building and like opens the doors, and it's very thematic of, but I think it does encapsulate what they were trying to say. Like, she opened her door to her new life, like things are changing again for her, but she needs to open that door.
Right. Well, then it also speaks to the way some autistic people are so literal. Like her, she is extremely literal. Well, not all like that, but she is extremely literal. So when she's climbing up whatever they're building, she's climbing up the scaffolding and like the bare bones of something. And so she climbs up there and she sees a door and she opens the door and then walks through the door and is looking down on all the other people. For her, that was something physically that she had to do. She couldn't just do it mentally because it's like a literal thing that she's now connected to, of like graduating, opening a physical door, stepping out of the physical door, and now she just uses that her entire life. So it's like it's literally a physical act for her, when to a lot of people it doesn't make sense. Like, why is that? It's like a almost spiritual thing, but sometimes we need to do things literally in order to attach that feeling to it, because we can't attach feeling like allistic people can.
Yeah. So then now she's an undergrad or overgrad, whatever. She's in her master's program now.
Yeah, master's. Yeah.
At I want to say she's Arizona State, maybe Colorado. I think it's Colorado. She's out of Arizona. She's in Colorado now, where all the cows are, and she's at a butcher facility, slaughter
Slaughterhouse.
facility. Yeah, slaughterhouse. Mm-hmm. And of course the main cowboy there is the complete loudmouth asshole, and
old boy.
like immediately like they're all listening to him talk and stuff, and we know Temple's listening, but she's also listening to the cows more, so she's like looking around and nervous fidgeting as she does. And he's like, what are you doing, man? Are you listening, son? And they're like, oh, that's a girl. And he's like immediately like, ho ho. And then it turns
like,
into little ladies. Can you hear me, little lady? Like, oh, so patronizing. I was like, fucking barf. Okay. Right. And then she's like, why are the cows mooing? And they're like,
cows moo. The fuck?
Who knows? Who cares? I've been here 20 years. They fucking moo. Like,
yeah, but then she points out that it sounds different. Like, she's used to the cows mooing, like on her aunt's farm, but the cows sound different. So she's like, why do their moos sound like that? And he's like, yeah, who the fuck knows?
Yeah, he's like,
why do the fuck do I care?
Moves. Who cares? Yeah. So, and he's already like, she's a joke to him now at this point. I mean, she was a joke as soon as he found out she was a woman, let's be honest, but now it's like solidified for him. She's a fucking joke. And they're like, you might want to skip the other part, you know, because they're like, your feminine constitution probably won't be able to handle it. But she goes in, like, sees them be slaughtered, and
well, first they go, so when they're slaughtering the cows, they have to clean them first. Yeah, at the dip tank, to get all of as much dirt and like bugs off of them. So like the way that they have it set up is not humane. It doesn't look fun, and the cows are freaking out the entire time, and they're like sliding down into this water, and cows can swim 100%, but they're sliding down into this water, and while they're sliding, they're totally freaking out, and she can tell that they're freaking out.
Yeah.
And she sees them, and they're like walking in circles, like away from all the cattle hands, and like they're just doing weird patterns that don't make sense to people who don't understand like animals. Like, it just looks like they're walking in a fucking circle. But she sees it start to freak out, and one of the cows goes under because it's freaking out so bad that it completely submerges, and it gets like turned upside down. So then all the hands start freaking out, and they're like, pull it out, get it out of there, da, da, da. And Big Hoss is like, oh yeah, we lose, maybe 3 cows a week. It ain't, it's nothing, you just got to watch them. And they're like prodding them while from up top while
through.
they're in the dip tank, not only to get them to move, but also to make sure that they're staying like stable and they're not doing like the cow did, doing a loop-de-loop. So they're like prodding them, and then now they're all freaking out and they're running around, and now the cows are freaking out even more. They're trying to get away from them. It's pure chaos. And like, to a layman's eye or someone who doesn't care, it looks like cows being cows and freaking out. But you can see in the way that they shot it that for Temple, she's seeing every little bit of this. She's like, okay, now they're going in circles. Now they're going away from them. Now they're trying to get away from them, poking them. Now they're freaking out because they got to go around this curve and they don't know what's going on there. And the light is coming, and and she's got like all of this going in her head while this cow is almost dying from this fucking tank that they got. Basically, it's just a water hole. And then she goes into the slaughterhouse and sees it's the same thing. It's just chaos, and they just prod them along metal walls, grates on the floor. They're prodding them along. They get them to the thing. The cow is freaking out, and then bolt, dead cow.
Yeah.
And she's just looking at all of it like, you can see in her face, she's like, this is so fucked up.
Yeah, because you can tell she's feeling their pain. Like, it's not just the chaos disturbing her in general. It's the pain of the ant. They're scaring them, and they're making them feel all this pain for what she can tell absolutely no reason. There's not, why are you doing this to them? Like,
and I think she's also confused. I get the feeling she's confused as to why they're not seeing what she's seeing. Like how the guy was like, I don't know, cows fucking move. And she's like, what do you mean? That's a different move. Like she's not understanding what they're not understanding. Like, how are you missing this if this looks crazy right now?
Yeah, like everything is scared and in pain.
Right.
Why? And everyone's just ignoring her. And so then she
goes to like her professor.
Is it professor first or grocery store first?
Oh no, yeah, she goes to the grocery store first.
Yeah. So first she pulls up, and you tell she's still irritated, and she sees the Dollar General, but they have a sliding door. So she's like, well, nope. She goes, there's a little gas station across the street. So she goes there, and she's like, you got yogurt and pudding? She's like, right over there. And she grabs her yogurt and she heads home, and she turns on like Animal Planet, and she's watching an antelope get eating yogurt. And I think this sets off something in her that then she goes to her professor. Hold on, I'm being offered food. That she wants to study the mooing. That's what she wants her thesis to be on, the mooing. He's like, that's a dumb fucking thesis, and it sounds like you want an easy ride, and I'm not going to give you an easy ride for your autism. And I kind of respected what he was saying. Like, he didn't fully understand where she was coming from, and he was saying, you made it this far, you better give me something fucking good. And so I respected that, but she was like, no, this is good. And she starts fully explaining to him, and she's taking notes and everything. So then he's like, all right, well, you got to get approval from Big Hoss though, because he's owns the place. And she's like, fuck. Like, she knows he's not going to fucking sign it. And then she tries to get on the site, and they won't let her on because they're not letting women in. It upsets the men. And I was like, you motherfuckers. But I was like, girl, fucking get it. Fucking get it. Yeah. She's like, pulls out and around. She sees the cowboys kind of laughing at her, and she's looking at everyone in line, and they all got a pickup truck. They're all dirty. They're all dudes. And she's like, all right, I got you. She goes straight to town, trades in her car for an old pickup truck, goes and buys some men's clothes, goes and rolls in the dirt, and then pulls back around. It's like, yeah, I'm here for my shift. And they're like,
yeah, she throws dirt on the truck too to make it look old.
She dirties the truck, dirties herself, and is like, yeah, I'm here for my shifts. And she's like, ha and she gets in, and she like gets down to cow level. She's looking at like in everywhere, every hole, every round.
She's walking it. She's literally crawling through the entire thing.
Hold on. So, and everyone's looking at her like, what the fuck is this chick doing here? Why is she here? What is happening? And she ends up leaving the site to a really bloody truck, all dirty.
Right.
And she ends up, they laugh because it's bull testicles and intestines and shit, and they think they're gonna scare her off, and she just throws them back at them, and she's like, you're fucking wasting shit. I've had bull testicles. This isn't special. And then drives off.
The way she says it is so funny. She just says, I eat bull testicles at my aunt's farm all the time.
They're just like wasting. Like,
and they're like, what? Like, they don't understand what she's saying. But to me, it made perfect sense of like, one, you're wasting it. And two, is this supposed to scare me? Like, am I supposed to be freaked out to eat through bull testicles? I eat these. What do you?
Yeah. You're just doing nothing. But it does upset her. But you could see in the main cowboy's face a sense of respect of like, okay,
yeah, not big Hoss, but like,
it's not big Hoss. It's like
it's a second in command.
Yeah, he's like second command. And so then the next day when she comes back, she's in the pins again looking at something, and he comes up and ends up talking to her, and she tells him about the moves and stuff, and she has more information in her head and stuff. And then he's like, well, he's never going to sign that. And she's like, but I need him to sign that. And he's like, he doesn't sign things. And she's like, I need him to. And he's like, no, you're not understanding me. I don't even think that man can write. I sign things in his name. So here you go. Signed off. Go do your mooing expedition.
Yeah.
And he's like, and he also gives her advice. He's like, but if you want to know more information, you need to go to like stockyards and stuff, and and to auctions and get in there too. And she was like, fucking perfect. So she ends up going to the auction house, and this was another time that I thought was like a good visual representation of like not just autism, but like anxiety in general of like, so she's here, this is a completely different place. She's already like, every cowboy that meets her wants nothing to fucking do with her. And she sees the head press guy go back, and it's the door metaphor again. There's a door there, and she's just like, I'm scared shitless, but I'm going through this door. And she goes in and she just starts blabbing it all, her whole plan out to this guy. And he's just like, well, okay, like whatever you write, send to me. Cool. And she's just like, fuck yeah, I got my first job.
Yes. And he says literally, anything you write, I will read. Just from the way, and like I want to point out the way that she seems so stubborn in the way that she talks, and that she just kind of info dumps everything at you, and you have no choice but to listen. But there's a very specific reason why a lot of autistic people do that. It's because most autistic people don't listen to understand. Right? So they're just hearing your words, but they're not ascribing any meaning to it. So what we have to do is literally get as much information out as soon as possible so that you understand the nuance of what we're talking about, and you don't just do that stupid thing where they pick out different words or sentences that you said and they focus only on that. Like, no, that's not what I'm saying. You have to get the whole conversation. So the way she just like spits things out at everyone is because she's so used to people not understanding and not listening to what she's saying. So like when she gets the chance, she's just like blah, 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 and it's all out there so that you know what she's fucking talking about, because otherwise they're just gonna tell her no.
And on top of that, of people not understanding, just the blatant, she's already dealt with very blatant, like, stop talking, female woman, or stop talking, you're weirding me out. You know, she's already had to deal with so many people shutting her down almost immediately. Absolute info dumping is absolutely what she does, and has to. And she says it loud and proud, and he's like, cool. And she said in an interview that is exactly how she got her first job. That's exactly what happened.
That's so cool. I love that for her.
Right. So she's not excited. She gets to write. She's studying her cows, and she writes her paper. She passes. Like, she's out of college now, and she has a new idea that she wants to do. But the dude's banned her from the thing. He's like, you're not even a fucking student anymore. I don't have to fucking let you in.
Yeah. And her paper did get published. She did get published.
We skipped a part. Somewhere they skipped a part, because that's where she goes, oh, no. she just goes back to press guy who said, yeah, I'll publish anything you want. She
Mhm.
publishes the paper, but the guy, Big Hoss, doesn't like it. He still doesn't like her. He don't like the paper. He doesn't like that she used his area. So
Mm-mm.
he blocks her. So she goes to the people. She's like, I'm not a student anymore. You have to give me a job so I can have a press pass. I just need a press pass, pretty much. Like,
Yeah,
I'll
she
do
doesn't even say job. She just says, I
yeah.
need a press pass.
She's
I
like, just
just
put
need
me
a
in your
press
roster.
pass. And the guy, the editor is like, I only have 4 writers on staff. Like, I can't afford to pay another writer. It's just not going to happen. And she's like, no, you're not, again, you're not hearing exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I just need a press pass. And he's like, sure, I can fucking write you a press pass. What? I don't have to pay you? Yeah, have all of them. She's like,
yeah. Yeah. So then she goes back because she now has a press pass. And this is where she ends up like in a talk with somebody. And the one guy's like, oh, wait a minute, you're Temple? And she's like, yeah, I'm Temple. And then, oh no, she's writing again at the paper. She's in the office. And a guy's there and he hears her name and he's like, well, I think we get a montage of like more papers she's written and she's like doing more studies with animals. And then she's in the office and he's like, will you come and design something for my place? I want a new setup. And she's like,
and I lost my designer.
He's like, and
Somehow
I've
he
lost my
lost his
designer, and can you come?
Then
I really
think.
respect everything you've been writing, and I want you to design my new dip. And she's like, oh my God, yes, like absolutely. And so then she like gets to the whole idea she needs. She's learned cows, and it goes to the montage of like how she pictures the picture and then like puts the stuff over it and stuff. And it's really cool. And then she creates it like her dip has curves in it because cows naturally follow curves, thinking they're going back to the same place.
Right.
So no need to like prod or anything like that. Keep stuff off from the top. They feel secure. And as they just get deeper, they'll just keep going. And then she put like divots on the thing so their hooves could stay stable. Right. And they just themselves would comfortably swim across because they can swim. And you wouldn't lose any fucking cows anymore. And you'd save so much money. Right. So she gets it all built and everyone's like, this is amazing. This is a masterpiece. She even does a quick little demo for like a newspaper guy. And he's like, I don't usually tell people what I'm going to write about them, but this is brilliant. This is amazing. And then they're like, so for the very next day, she's been wearing like dirty overalls this whole time. And he's like, Temple, a lot of people are going to be here tomorrow. You need to wear something else. You need to dress nice if you're going to be here. And so the one secretary takes her out, and this is where she gets her like the
Western wear,
her cowboy shirts,
and
that she wears, and she picks cow pins, and it specifically shows a part where she saw a military man and like his pins they get, and she's like, these will be my pins. Like,
yeah, it's so cute. It's the cutest thing ever.
It's pretty awesome. And then they so then she gets it. But she gets there. The Cowboys had decided that it's stupid, so it's
not fast enough for them because it's too
they don't
slow.
even attempt to try it. They're just like, we know what we're fucking doing. Get me the fucking welder. They put a metal slide over the divots. They cut it in half completely so the cows don't even go through the curves at all. They're just going straight in the water pretty much. And Temple pulls up to like 3 cows piled up, 1 hanging from the crane, like 4 dead. And she's like, you're all fucking idiots. Y'all ruined it. This is not how I designed it. And one thing I do love about this is he completely tries to gaslight her. Like his first words are, look what you did. Look what you designed. And I think a lot of people would have been like, oh my God, well, what happened? And they wouldn't immediately. And I think this is where her autism for sure, I guess, helps her. There was no sense of social exchange here for her. It was just straight up, you fucked up my thing. You fucked up. Like, you can't gaslight her because she knows the facts and she's going to scream them in your face. And she lights them a fucking new one. She's throwing shirts around. The guy's like, what happened? And I feel like in like holistic movies, you'll see this is where the person will be like, well, I don't, and you won't get the whole story. She was immediately like, oh no, your fucking cowboys ruined my shit. And now you have 4 dead cows because they are fucking idiots and you need to fire them all. And I was like, fucking get it, girl. get them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of times they portray autistic people as kind of like a little bit more meek and timid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Outside of like having an autistic meltdown. And like the way that they express us having big emotions is very much, it's always yelling. It's always like this thing. But then when you talk to us one on one, they're always like a little more meek and like, oh well, I just didn't understand and I don't know what's happening. And it gets really quiet when holistic people in screen, in television and stuff actually directly talk to an autistic person. And they didn't do that. She was, yeah, you're right. She was immediately like, they fucked up my shit. They killed a bunch of cows. These cows didn't have to die. Fix it, because it's like opening day. There's press
Yeah.
there, like there's all this stuff, and my name is attached to this.
Yeah. You
And you
ruined my
killed
thing.
4 fucking cows.
Yeah.
In my name. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. You're done. You're so fucking done. So, but it gets fixed, and then they show like more, she's winning more awards, more people are picking up her inventions.
Yeah, she's getting published even more.
Yeah, like she's revolutionizing the industry of not having to be so abusive. And this is where, oh yeah, right after that she ended up like kicking in the door to her professor's house and ranting about this, that they ruined her shit, they did all this stuff. And he's like, well, what are you gonna do? And she's like, well, I'm gonna fix it, like, of course. And it's like she just needed that venting moment
of someone who would understand.
Yeah, and he was just like, well, good to see you. Did you drove 6 hours here, like, to rant at me? Like,
yeah, what the fuck?
And but then it gets sad, because then she goes home and the very next morning she gets a call from her mom that the professor had actually died. And she was like, no, I just saw him, like, and you could tell it wasn't, like, it didn't really hit her until they're at the funeral and the people are walking by, like, putting their roses down and stuff like that. And she's like, what are they doing? And the mom's like, well, this is them saying their final goodbye. And she's like, well, I already said goodbye to him. I saw him yesterday. And the mom's like, well, no, this is like the final goodbye. And so she goes up and she starts pulling out her stuff, and the mom's like, oh shit, she's getting naked. But she just pulls off her cow pen and like puts it on him. And then she kind of leaves and she's like, well, Temple, it's not done yet. And she was like, well, I'm done. He's not here. And
yeah, I already said goodbye.
Yeah,
I said goodbye twice now.
And and there's that moment of like, he's not here. Like, there's no reason for me to stand here. I have things I have to get done. He already gave me my advice. But it is an interesting take they've done of, they've had her question where do they go quite a few times, because like in high school a horse dies, she's like, where do they go? And it was like, we don't know. And now it's like her first human dying in front of her, and she's like, where'd he go? And the mom's like, we don't know, they're just gone. And she's just like, okay, well then he's not here, so I'm leaving, there's no reason for me to be here. And
but then she walks up to her mom and she gives the closest approximation to a hug that she is physically able to give. And the mom like is like freaked out, and she slowly wraps her arms around. She doesn't quite touch, and then Temple's like, all right, bye. And she just dips out. And then the mom's sister, the aunt, comes up and gives the mom a full hug. And you can tell both of them are like, holy shit, what just happened?
Yeah. She just fucking hugged us. And it's the
such
growth.
A sweet moment.
It's the growth happening.
Because I don't think she really needed it. I don't think she really needed that hug. I think she realized that
she knew her mom needed it.
She should be giving a hug. So that's what she did in her own way.
Yeah. And that's where the pride comes in, because it's like, it is a huge step for her to be willing to come out of that comfort zone just for somebody else.
Right.
But also it shows the growth and in her understanding what's happening socially around her, that she is starting to pick up the cues or understand, maybe not understand why people do it, but this is something you colloquial do. So, okay, we're going to do this,
And then it also all ties back to the machine that she created, because she told multiple people, it's like getting a hug. It's like getting a really big hug. And she told her blind friend, she was like, I don't like hugs from people. I don't like people to touch me. But when I'm in the machine, it feels like a hug. So I think she realized in that moment of like, okay, when I'm freaking out, I go to my hug machine. And now mom is kind of freaking out. So probably needs a hug. And like
Yeah.
she can't do the full thing, but she does enough. Like the symbol of like, I understand you need a hug right now. It's so good.
It is. It was really good. So then it comes that she's winning into another award. She's talking to her blind friend. She's like, I just wanted to show you all these great things I've done at this factory. And her friend's
Well,
like, well,
she does a slaughterhouse next. She rejuvenizes a slaughterhouse to be in the same kind of
which this
way.
is like, so she goes and she's like, it's kind of like, what's next? And they're like, you need to do the slaughterhouse. You need to move on in there. And at first she goes into one and she's just kind of like, I'm Temple Grandin. I'm here to do this. And they're like, security? And and so she gets kicked out, but of course
she asked for a tour.
Yeah, and they're
I'm
like,
doing a tour, and they're like, no.
And then she's like, well, I have all these ideas, and they're like, security. So then she's like, she's good old Temple. She ain't fucking giving up. But she ends up driving back in town, and she sees that her little shop is shutting down, so she has to go into the Dollar Tree now. And she's like, fuck me. So she gets in, she gets what she needs, but she can't get out. She's like standing at the door, so scared. And this lady comes up to her and is like, well, I love your shirt. And she's like,
your shirt's really nice.
And she notices that she's scared. So she's like, are you all right? And she's like, I can't with the doors. And she's like, oh, I can help with that. And first she goes to touch her and she sees Temple pull away. So she's like, no problem. Okay, I'm going to keep it open. And she helps her out.
And she says something like, Temple tells her I'm autistic. And she says, I don't know if this was, so my subtitles said that the lady said, oh, my son is artistic.
She did.
Did she say artistic or autistic?
I think she said artistic.
Okay.
And
all right.
She heard her wrong. And once again, I think at this point, this is 60s, not the 50s anymore, but it's a time where people don't know what autism is.
Right. But the lady was so sweet. And I think this is the first time in the movie we see someone who doesn't know Temple and is not looking at her for any kind of like schooling or professional advice. It's just a random lady that walks up to her and is so nice, and like she's a stranger and she's like, I'll just hold it open. It won't close on you. I'm here. I'll just hold it open. Let's go. Come on. And just like, it's the first time like a stranger has did anything like that in the whole movie, of like immediately, maybe not understanding, but willing to accommodate.
Just being like, okay, well, this is what we're doing. We're going to help you. And then she turns out being even bigger help. Because Temple, she's like, well, what do you do? And Temple's like, well, I'm trying to fix up slaughterhouses, but I can't even get in one. And she's like, well, my husband works in the slaughterhouse. Maybe you should talk to him. And she's like, maybe I should. She's like, I went through a door. And it has that double meaning of like, she did literally just face a fear and go through a door. But also because she did that, she also figuratively opened a whole nother door to her life. So now she's fixing up slaughterhouses. And you see her in the big meeting of the guys being like, this is dumb. We're not doing this. Don't you know why? You don't even know anything about slaughterhouses. You don't know why we do these things. And she's like, shut your fucking mouths. This is the plan. This will save you. And I love how every time people are belittling her and stuff, she never misses a beat. And she's always able to bring it back to what she knows what she's talking about. Yes, she's coming from a place of animal welfare and respecting the animals, because they give to us, we should give to them. And people shut her down for coming from that place, but she can immediately go, but your wallets, but you want to save money. She immediately switches over to all the like facts that men care about and makes them go, well, and we're back from that impromptu break. All right. So yeah, she's in the meeting and she's killing it. She's throwing the numbers at them along with what's going to help the cows and their business. And then I want to say it goes into some montage again. It's over now, right? Like,
well, there is a scene that I thought was really, really good where she is back home during Christmas and her mom has thrown like a party, and some of the people, this older couple that are invited to the party, they kind of corner her, which made me feel intensely uncomfortable even just watching it, because she's like in between the tree, like the Christmas tree, and like a wall or something. She's in between two things, so she's literally cornered in, and these two people come up to her and they're like, "Hey, Temple, we heard you got your master's, like that's amazing." And it starts off really good, and she's like, "Yeah," and she starts going into like what she's doing and stuff, and she's like, "Oh yeah," and she's like, "Oh, I've had articles written," and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's amazing." And then they're like, our son has had an article picked up by the New York Times, and they like call him over, and he comes over and he's just like this douchey white dude in like a suit.
So douchey.
And he's like, "Hey, how are you?" And he's like, "Oh, well, where have your articles been published?" It's just some little magazine.
Oh yeah, like Farmer's Best magazine.
Yeah, it's like only farmers would care about that, and only people in the industry would care about that, which is again linked back to where she was just sitting in the reporter's office, and the guy recognizes her just by her name. This guy doesn't give a shit because it's not the New York Times, and things get really, really awkward because they start talking down to her, and they're like, "Oh, that's nice," and they like leave, and then she freaks out. She goes upstairs, she's freaking out on the bed, and her mom comes in and she's like, hold on, hold on. And she's like, I need my hug machine. I need my hug machine. This is too much. I hate parties. I hate people. Da, 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 da. And her mom says something to the effect of like, look, you're here. You can enjoy this party. You are capable of enjoying this. You don't have to like freak out about this. I know you can be in a room full of people. I know you can do this. And she's like, then she goes into like, well, they're so mean, or they're so something, talking about these people that have talked down to her. And her mom is like, who fucking gives a shit? You were published. It doesn't matter where you're published. You have a master's degree. She's now trying to get her PhD. Like, you're going for a doctorate. Fuck that dude.
Yeah.
He wrote one piece and the New York Times picked it up. You've got like 5. You were an inventor. You've invented shit. And her mom gives her like this pep talk, and she calms down. And that's kind of where she starts to have the attitude of like, you need to fucking listen to me. I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So stop it. Like, let me do what I need to do. And then, yeah, that's kind of like the end of like.
Oh, well, first, okay, so then it jumps to her and her mom are at a convention, and it's an autism convention, and they sit down, and this doctor is talking upstage, and these parents are pretty much heckling this guy because they're like, my son doesn't do that, or that doesn't make sense over here. And he's like, well, we're thinking, and they're like, you don't even like,
yeah, and he's talking about institutionalizing and stuff too.
Yeah,
like it's still, that talk is still very prevalent.
Oh yeah, and he's they're specifically asking about stimming or something, because they like show a little girl spinning, and they're like, you just need to stop it. And she's like, well, actually, we do need those things. Like, human touch makes us very uncomfortable, but spinning or being hugged in a machine, or these can give us the same effect as a hug. And like pretty much does her whole hug speech. And everyone's like, oh my God, how old is your child? And she's like, oh, I don't have a child. And they're all like, oh, get out of our face. And she goes, well, I have autism. And they're like,
I'm autistic, and
everything.
I have a master's degree. Like, I have all of this. And they're like, wait. And then they bring the microphone to her, and they're like, and
she starts talking some more, and they're like, well, we want to hear everything you have to say. And then she like walks up the aisle, and she's walking up to the stage, and she sees a door open.
Multiple doors. It's like a montage of all the doors that she's walked through in her life, even the slidey one that she's walked through in her life, and she gets up on the stage, and it's.
But I will say, like, as an autism parent, you are very much like, I was desperate to find one help for my sons. Like, when they got diagnosed, honestly, when I would Google things, all you could find was like fucking autism speaks, and they are terrible. They're terrible. They terrified me. They did not help. Like, nothing was of service over there other than to make me feel like shit, and make me lose all faith in my child's ability to ever grow as a human being. Like, and because they even had like multiple articles that would pretty much lead you down to like, well, if you got to institutionalize them, it happened, like.
And don't feel bad about it. Autism Speaks is it's very like, whatever is happening to your kid, the parent, specifically autism moms, it tends to be catered
Yeah.
to, of like, some people, there's nothing you can do for them, and like it's
Yeah.
not your fault, like you tried.
And
So
it
like,
definitely plays off your mom guilt, because you have it. You're gonna have it, and we all have those fears for our children of like never wanting them to get hurt, never wanting people to be mean to them. You don't want those things for your child, even if you had a neurotypical child. And once you get a diagnosis like that, you are more likely, well, now he's 10 times more likely to be hurt by the world. And how can I prevent that? And
right.
so you're trying to find information, and that's what fucking comes up. But I was so desperate. Like, honestly, TikTok's been amazing because it's probably the first time I've been able to like find autistic voices. What
Mm-hmm.
are they feeling? How did they get through this? What did they see? And Temple is the first autistic person, the first autistic voice that we got, that said, this is what my mind's doing. Here's some books about it. Like, she was the first autistic person to come out and be like, I have autism, I'm still fucking successful. And that's pretty much what she stands up for now, like in schools and stuff, or when she talks about it. She wants schools to go back to a time, like she says, if she was in school these days, she wouldn't have a PhD, because school requires you to have all level, like you have to be perfect at English, perfect at math, perfect at science if you want that. She's like, I wouldn't have that. Luckily, when I went to school, because I was into science, I only had to do a remedial math, and I was able to study my way through that. But that wouldn't exist for me now. And she's like, and we're losing voices, we're losing mechanics, we're losing servicemen and women. Like, these are the jobs autistic people could easily take into and be amazing at. But because of the way we changed the school system, they're not getting anywhere. Not to mention that the whole label of autism still very much comes with like, oh, I can't hire you, you have autism. Like,
Right. Which is why I will never tell an employer that I have
yeah,
autism.
no, because I
I'm not
even
doing
had
it.
where I was talking to a person after a interview, and they were like, oh, that person was good, but like they had autism, so we probably shouldn't hire them. And I was like, why? And they're like, well, it can get really overwhelming in the shelter. And I was like, you already have autistic people working here, right? Like, you do. Like, and they're just like, what? And I'm like, I'm just saying, like, to say that out loud, you really need to think about what you're saying. And
Right. And
it's kind
if
of
they
left at
are
that, but I was just like,
diagnosed if they are diagnosed autistic, that is a protected class. So if they were to go and say, we are not hiring them because they're autistic, you have a lawsuit on your
oh,
hands.
absolutely.
Like, it's a
Absolutely.
protected
But it
class.
does go to show that while it may be a protected class, it's such a hard thing to even prove.
Right. Right.
Businesses get away with it all the time. They
Hmm.
can literally write anything on that paper. They
Yeah.
don't.
And it is so stupid to me because like just the way that our brains work, we can do things so much more efficiently. Like, I am so good at my job, but it's because I know how to focus in, and because I'm one of the crazy people that actually enjoys using Excel. So I moderate I make it like as simple for myself as possible. I get everything done extremely quickly because I have these systems in place, because I have these routines, because I keep track of everything meticulously, because I'm autistic and it's the only way I can do it. I am very good at my job. And like, I have another person on my team. She's the only one that knows that I'm autistic. And it's because I was explaining things to her, and the way I was explaining things to her were clicking better than somebody else trying to explain it. And she was like, I don't understand how you can think this way. How did you get to this conclusion? Like, how did you go from A to B? And I was like, well, my brain is just a little different, and to me this makes the most sense, but to me it's like, why are you doing it the other way? It doesn't
Yeah.
make sense. And I never accept, anytime I'm with an employer doing anything and they're like, well, that's just the way it's always done, I'm very much like Temple, and I'm like, I'm not doing it that way. It doesn't make any fucking
Yeah.
sense. It doesn't make sense. If you want things to progress, you need somebody who's going to think that way. And dollars to fucking donuts, you go out to any of the people that are like, I'm talking software engineers that are leading the front, AI engineers that are fucking taking that and running with it, sound engineers that are making these amazing beats and that nobody else can create. I'm just saying.
Well, so
I'm
does Temple. Temple
yeah.
absolutely says that, and she's like, honestly, probably over half of Silicon Valley is autistic. They just don't
Who
announce
else is
it.
gonna come up with this?
Yeah. But she's very focused, and she's come up with the 4 types of thinking. With hers is visual, and I forgot the other 3. I didn't
Probably
write that down.
visual and like something with words. I'm a very
Probably, but it was all really big words, and I was like,
yeah.
I know what visual means.
Yeah, and I'm not as visual. Like it won't make like I need to like write it. I need to see it written and like broken down into segments to understand what each step is and why I'm doing it like that. If you don't tell me the why, I'm not going to get it.
Yeah,
If you don't explain to me why I'm doing it, that's why I'm no good at math because there is no why
yeah,
in hardcore math. It just is. And I'm like, no, I don't. There has to be a why. Why am I doing it this way?
yeah. So here are her 4 types. We got photorealistic, which is what she is.
Pictures, yeah.
Yeah. Pattern thinker, verbal facts, language translation thinker, and auditory thinking.
Oh, I'm a pattern. I'm a pattern 100%. I can find a pattern in anything. I can find a pattern. I can find repeats. I love patterns. And that's why I love Excel. It's all patterns. It's just patterns.
I think I'm photo and maybe verbal, but I don't know if I fully understand what verbal means. Verbal facts language.
That means like if I was trying to teach you how to braid hair and I was showing you how to do it, that means that you would need like step by step like verbal instructions like okay, you're going to take your fingers, you're going to separate this into 3 pieces, and you're going to take the piece on the right and you're going to go under the middle piece, and then you were going to grab another piece and you're going to add it to this one, and then you're going to go under all of them, and then you're going to go over to the right again and you're going to grab more and you're going to put that here and you're going to go under. That's what that means, like literally speaking it to you.
Yeah, I'm that one.
It's very helpful to know that. It's very
Yeah.
helpful to know
Oh yeah.
how you learn things.
Super helpful. It's too bad I didn't learn until I was like a fucking adult, but
right? God damn.
yeah, absolutely.
Christ.
I'm that one and picture thinking. Because it's
I get
everything
that.
pictures up here. And I did not realize, I thought everybody thought like that. Like, until my sister was like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, like reading books. It's a whole movie. Like, and she's just like, no, I don't know what you're talking about at all. And I'm like, oh, weird. How do you not see that? Like,
Right. Like I know somebody that I saw on TikTok was talking about how they are not able to visualize things in their brain, like off
which
of
is like,
words. They cannot visualize anything at all. And someone was like, so what happens when you read a book? Because even like I read a book and yeah, I'm visualizing. Normally I'm caught up on the little minute details, which is why I could never be an editor because people would fire me of like where people are in a room and shit, but I'm still visualizing it to an extent. And they answered this question and they were like, it's literally just words. And I was like, that sounds horrible.
that
That
does,
sounds like hell on earth.
you must hate reading. Because then what's the
Right. How do
point?
you read?
Are you just taking in info? Like, you're not seeing the magic? Like, I don't understand.
And you can't, I feel like if you can't see it, like there's a certain level of like emotional like ties to it. Like,
Yeah.
how
How are you feeling it?
how
How
do
are
you
you
care?
feeling a word like that? Like, like,
Right.
that's
I
weird.
I wouldn't read, and I love reading. I read all the time.
No, yeah.
I would stop because like it's just not it's not as
What would be
satisfying.
the no, that wouldn't be satisfying at all.
No.
It makes me definitely love my brain more knowing that I have such a vivid
Oh, I love my brain.
brain.
I
Yeah.
love yeah, and my pattern recognition, I love it. I love it because listen to me. When I figured this out, I was like so blown away because if you would have talked to me when I was in high school, and my best friend will attest to this, because she told me I was crazy for thinking this back then, but I didn't believe her. I thought that I was manipulating people, but I rationalized it that it's okay because I wasn't doing anything bad with the manipulation, but I was manipulating them in order to have a social interaction with them. And I was finding the patterns of other people's social interaction and the flow that they followed so that I could then follow the same pattern. And I thought I was manipulating people. But it wasn't until I started really thinking about being autistic and seeing the patterns that I was seeing that I was like, I'm not manipulating people, I'm manipulating myself in order to fit into these social interactions because I'm following the pattern that society has created for us.
Yeah.
And like understanding how your brain processes information and why it processes it that way is it's so much easier to get through life because
Yeah.
now all the doors are open. Like with Temple, the door is open because now you understand it and you can just.
And she's still killing it. She's still out here doing interviews.
I love her.
And touring. She's a professor at Colorado State University. And
in animal husbandry or something, right?
She has a PhD in animal husbandry.
Gotcha.
And yeah, and is now a professor. And I think, teaches animal husbandry too, I'm sure. But yeah, amazing woman.
I love her
on so many levels. Like,
I want to meet her so bad.
Just from being a white woman, because obviously worse if she was black, but white woman in the 50s, 60s, and making it in a man's world that way, amazing. Then add on top of that she had autism and had to overcome the bullying and the social cues and stuff like that. Like, killed it again. Like, she's awesome.
Yeah, I love her.
I might have to get a tattoo.
So good. Get a tattoo of the little cow pin. Or
honestly,
like a western shirt with a cowboy hat with like the rope around it, like an old school mom tattoo.
I really want to do what she said to her professor when she was like, we created them for us. They deserve a little respect. Because I'm just like, I'm in animal rescue, and it still fits like the way we don't need to treat animals like shit just because they don't necessarily speak English and stuff. Like, they're here because we as humans put them here with us. You should treat them with a little respect, even if you are just going to eat them, or they're just farm animals. But even to your dog at your house, like, it doesn't need to be chained up outside. Give it a little fucking respect,
Right. It's still like it still has a conscience. It still has
yeah,
and that can be applied to people too. Like even like
absolutely.
Your kids, like you brought them on this earth against their will. Why do they not also deserve your respect?
A little respect.
Or people at the fucking Walmart, why don't they deserve respect? Like they're still here. They exist. Why aren't you giving them any kind of respect? That doesn't make sense. So yeah, I think that's a good idea. You should do it like a Western font though, and you need like a lasso.
Definitely.
A lasso is a requirement. I'm telling you, I will be very upset if it doesn't have a lasso.
That would be a good one. I could make it look like it's stamped up there.
Yeah.
With the lasso around, like a branding. Get on my butt. Get branded on my butt.
I'm just thinking of Jared seeing that.
He'd probably laugh.
Oh God.
But that's our show. The movie was amazing. I think 10 out of 10, honestly.
Yeah,
the only critique I could think to even kind of give it is that this probably would have been a great opportunity for an actual autistic actor.
Yeah, but this was like 2010, right? That wouldn't have happened.
This was back a little before, and like I said before, Temple was on set. Temple worked with Claire Danes. Like, so I feel like while we could throw that out there when someone personally signs off on their personal story, I think we got to kind of respect the way they chose to do that. You know what I mean? Like,
right. And not just that, but the way that they handled her being autistic in the movie.
absolutely.
Like, if you look at almost any other movie, not just autism, but even if you look at like 13 Reasons Why, and like there were so many people who struggle with mental health that were telling Selena Gomez, like, don't tell the story this way. And she did it
Yeah.
anyway, and then it triggered a
Yeah.
bunch of fucking people. It triggered like half the fucking population. Like the way they handled it was just, yeah, it's 10 out of 10. Must watch. Like, I think it's one of the only accurate and non-dehumanizing portrayals of autism in media that I
Absolutely.
have ever seen.
Absolutely.
Ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely. This was the first one that I was like, yeah, that's autism, and she's fucking amazing. Not
Yeah.
because she's autistic, but like
Yeah.
everything about her is just,
Especially because the only autism we get to see is high support autism. Like,
yes.
and even though she was high support, she still managed to do all of this shit. So it was
Yeah.
like, I- there's not a better story that you could tell for the autism community at
Oh yeah.
all.
I mean, to just get out there, do it, throw the
Learn
testicles
the
back in their
rules.
face,
Yeah.
and just fucking kill it.
Learn the rules and then use the social rules to your advantage. Manipulate
Absolutely.
people.
Absolutely. Good night, everybody.
Bye.